Ever since LEGO introduced the modern minifigure back in 1978, they've never stopped experimenting with new designs, shapes, colors, and sizes. However, it wasn't until 1999 that things really got turned up a notch. Today we'll be exploring the history of LEGO's biggest figures and how some come in a lot more sizes than you may think. LEGO spent years playing with different designs until they finally landed on the iconic figure that we all know and love today. Once LEGO settled on this current design, they stuck with it, and almost no real changes were introduced for more than 20 years. Sure, they rolled out minifigures with hook hands, fancy clothes, and unique faces, but every one of them was still essentially identical in shape and size. That is, until 1999. You see, 1999 was perhaps the most significant year for LEGO minifigures. At first, you might think that this is all due to Star Wars. Granted, this licensed theme that came out during this time introduced the very first unique head molds, the first minifigures with human skin tones, the first minifigure with short legs, and several other firsts. However, there's one change that came out in the same year that, surprisingly, has nothing to do with Star Wars at all. LEGO set designers decided it was time to shake things up a little in their own original sets as well. In the summer of 1999, LEGO rolled out the Rock Raiders line with a handful of sets like the Tunnel Transport, the Chrome Crusher, and the Rock Raiders HQ, among a few others. While each of these sets is remembered fondly by builders, the last one really stands out for one big reason. Meet the Rock Monster, the first LEGO character that ever fell under the Big Fig title. This beast was made from a single piece, meaning that it couldn't be posed at all. It was included in just 2 sets while Rock Raiders was on store shelves. Aside from the Rock Raiders HQ, we also got one of these in the slightly smaller Loader Dozer build. Oh, and I also can't forget to mention that this character also popped up in the Rock Raiders video game from that same year, as well as 2001's LEGO Island 2. Now, an interesting fact about this figure is that despite being classified as the first Big Fig, it is also classified as an element, since at the end of the day, this is just a single massive piece of plastic, which is a bit degrading for this guy, don't you think? Other Big Figs are classified as figures rather than elements because they have articulation and can be posed. Moving on to the turn of the century, LEGO was rolling out another line famous for pushing the boundaries of minifigure design, Harry Potter. With so many fantastic beasts and mythical monsters, it's little wonder that the Harry Potter series has given us some of the most impressive creatures to date. Sadly though, not every offering was as impressive. In 2002, as LEGO was experimenting, LEGO released the Troll on the Loose set with 71 pieces and 2 minifigures. One was a standard version of Harry himself, but the other was something we'd never seen before. Behold, the Mountain Troll in all its glory. This rather goofy looking guy was officially classified as a minifigure, though the proportions were way different from anything that LEGO had ever released. The next year, 2003, saw the debut of Jabba the Hutt. Although this design doesn't even look close to that of a modern Big Fig, in literal terms, Jabba sure is a big figure. In fact, it wasn't really until 2007 that we got something a little closer to the modern Big Fig, when LEGO released the giant troll figure as part of the fantasy sub-theme of LEGO Castle. Unlike the rock monster, these guys had posable arms, and like the mountain troll, were officially listed as figures in the sets that they came in. Overall, we actually got 4 different versions of these guys: tan with bronze armor, tan with black armor, green with silver armor, and green with black armor. Unfortunately, each of these variants only ever appeared in a single set, except for the green and silver version, which appeared in both the Troll Warship and the Troll Assault Wagon sets. While these trolls only ever popped up in a handful of sets, they did make a few other appearances over the years. They were featured in the very first LEGO movie ever released, a direct-to-DVD film titled The Adventures of Clutch Powers. Additionally, they popped up in a few LEGO video games over the years, including LEGO Battles for the Nintendo DS. Today, picking up one of these trolls for yourself will run you about $40 US. Regardless, these wouldn't be the last trolls that LEGO would ever release, and several of the company's later offerings would continue to innovate on the design. As one example, the Cave Troll from Mines of Moria came out in 2012 using a new mold that was incredibly similar to another Lord of the Rings Big Fig, the Goblin King, from 2012's Goblin King Battle Set. Oh, and I can't forget to mention that LEGO finally got around to updating the Harry Potter Mountain Troll in 2024's The Great Hall set. But going back to the early 2000s, it seems that now that LEGO had broken the seal, they were ready to go fully all in on Big Figs, and we started seeing more and more of them over the next few years. In 2009, LEGO released the Power Miners line as sort of a spiritual successor to Rock Raiders. This theme gave us some seriously amazing sets and was indubitably loved by fans, but what set it apart were the unique figures, including some upgraded rock monsters for the Power Miners to face off against. Over the course of LEGO Power Miners, we got 3 brand new big figs, with Geolix, Tremorox, and Eruptor. Much like the giant trolls, each of these only appeared in 1 or 2 sets, making them fairly rare today, with price tags running anywhere between $20 to $40 US. While these new big fig monsters were a massive step up from the original, it seemed that LEGO still wasn't quite happy with the overall shape and design, because in 2010 they rolled out yet another version of the Hoth Wampa Cave set. This 297-piece build isn't super impressive on its own, but it did contain the next evolution of LEGO Big Figs, with the eponymous Wampa. Similar to the giant trolls, these figures came with posable arms, but everything else was just a single massive part. You may notice that at this time, LEGO was getting pretty close to the modern version of the Big Fig design. For whatever reason though, LEGO didn't use these molds again for 6 years until the Assault on Hoth set from 2016. Since then, the Wampa has remained elusive, only appearing in a handful of LEGO Star Wars video games. Notably, Star Wars also saw the release of the Rancor Big Fig a few years later in the Rancor Pit set released in 2013. Although LEGO would continue experimenting with different Big Fig designs over the next several years, one figure proved to be so successful that it really set the standard for every Big Fig to come. In 2012, LEGO began releasing sets to tie in with the very first Avengers movie, and this gave us some truly amazing sets and several now classic minifigures. However, among all of the shiny new pieces and characters, there was one figure that would change everything: the Incredible Hulk. As a character, the Hulk is known for a few things. He's green, he's angry, and above all, he's big. With such a larger-than-life character, a simple minifigure simply wouldn't do it. Additionally, LEGO's previous big figs like the trolls and rock monsters simply didn't have the right proportions. While the Hulk is somewhat monstrous, he's still visibly human, and has largely human proportions. Clearly, LEGO needed a new design. Well, when builders first began unboxing the Hulk Helicarrier's Breakout set, they were presented with a brand new design for everyone's favorite green giant. This version of the Hulk was the very first LEGO character to ever use this exact style of body, which has since become the standard for many of LEGO's big figs. Over the years, different versions of the Hulk have appeared in more than 20 sets, with no sign of slowing down. He's an incredibly popular character, and LEGO recognizes this. While every big fig version of the Hulk has used this same original design and shape and size, there are several other versions which have changed things up a bit. Aside from the many big fig variants, interestingly enough, LEGO has also released several versions as a regular minifigure. This was given away as a gift with purchase to anyone who spent at least $50 at the LEGO store over a single week in May of 2012. Despite its limited availability, this figure isn't especially valuable, and you can pick one up for about $15. Over the next several years, LEGO would release a few other versions of the Hulk as a regular minifigure, including this version from 2025's Marvel logo set. But it seems like LEGO just loves this guy so much that they've released him in several other sizes as well. We got this Duplo version in 2 different sets, as well as this version with short legs from the Mighty Micros line. We also almost got a microfigure version as part of a LEGO board game, but unfortunately this was never released. The Hulk might be one of the most varied characters that LEGO has ever released in terms of different sizes, but he's hardly the only one to appear in multiple sizes. Sticking to Marvel, we've also gotten multiple different sizes of Thanos, who has appeared as multiple big figs, multiple regular minifigures, and a short-legged version. These short-legged versions almost all come from the Mighty Micros line, and often offer a slightly more cartoonish take on the characters. Other characters that have come in this same set of sizes include Green Goblin, who got a single big fig variant in the Spider Helicopter Rescue set from 2014, as well as a short-legged version, and even 2 different Duplo variants. On top of this, there's also Bane, who has been released as a single big fig, several standard minifigures, and a single short-legged version. While these might be the most varied characters out there in terms of size, several figures have been released both as just standard minifigures and big figs, such as Killer Croc with 2 separate big figs, including this rather unique model. There's also Sandy from Monkey Kid and his big fig. I would also count Gorilla Grodd from the Gorilla Grodd Goes Bananas set as an upscaled version of the Gorilla Suit Guy from the Collectible Minifigures Series 3, though that one is admittedly debatable. So with that many characters getting upgraded from minifigure to big fig, and LEGO LEGO continuing to release new Big Figs, are there any characters that LEGO should consider next? Well, I would argue that there are at least 3 of them. For one, Venom seems like an obvious choice. As one of Spider-Man's most powerful foes, Venom has appeared several times as a minifigure, but I've always felt that he deserved to be a little bit more intimidating, as he's often shown being much larger than Spidey. I think Ant-Man seems like another obvious choice, seeing as we've already gotten standard minifigures of this character, as well as multiple nano figures. Giving us a larger version just makes sense. However, there is one Marvel character who arguably deserves a Big Fig more than just about anyone else: Kingpin. Every version of this character has always been massive, and a Big Fig would fit the size and scale of him perfectly. However, I wouldn't hold my breath on this one, as LEGO has never released a single version of this iconic villain in any scale. Why not? Well, I honestly have no idea, but I think that LEGO could reference some of the older animated series that he has appeared in to invoke a great sense of nostalgia for fans. Speaking of which, if you're interested in more nostalgia, click on this video right now to explore the genius strategies behind LEGO's most iconic themes. And don't forget to subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss my next video.